Hello again, this is Brian Copeland talking. Welcome to another edition of Copeland's Corner. If all goes well, we'll be joined a little bit later on in the podcast by a distinguished panel of comics who will talk about some of the news of the week. Welcome to my family room. You know, if you're watching this over YouTube as opposed to listening to it over one of your favorite platforms, we are here broadcasting from my, recording from my family room. So welcome to my home. Before we get started, story I wanted to talk a little bit about. Right now, Wednesday, when this is being recorded, there is a trial taking place, not a court hearing, an actual trial taking place in Colorado. A group of activists, as well as some Republican voters, are trying to get Donald Trump taken off of the 2024 ballot by saying that he is ineligible to be on the ballot because of the 14th Amendment. Section 3 of the 14th Amendment bars anybody who is a federal official who, after taking an oath to defend the Constitution, then aids or abets an insurrection against the Constitution or a rebellion against the Constitution. This goes back to after the Civil War. There were some representatives who were potentially there were going to be representatives from the former Confederacy who would have been in the Senate or been in the Congress, and they did not want those people who had tried to destroy the Union sitting in Congress. So Trump's side says that he should be allowed on the ballot, because what you're doing if you refuse to put him on the ballot is you are disenfranchising several million people who would have potentially voted for him, and that the voters should decide. It should be up to the voters to decide if they want him or if they don't. Personally, I mean, if you watch me or listen to me, you know how I feel about Donald Trump. But even if this weren't Trump, you know, he did, even though he denies that he had anything to do with the insurrection. And those of us who saw it with our own eyes and heard what he said at the Ellipse when he riled that crowd up saying, you got to fight like hell or we're not going to have a country anymore. We knew exactly what he was talking about. Matter of fact, one of the witnesses who testified today was a professor who is an expert in hate speech, who has interviewed people like the Oath Keepers and the KKK and all of the Proud Boys, all these white supremacist groups. And he's an expert on them and what riles them up. And he testified that what Trump does is that he uses doublespeak, where he talks about violence in hypotheticals. You know, like, remember when he was talking about that if the Democrats try to take away people's guns, the NRA people would take care of that. And so he says things like that, and that gives him some kind of plausible deniability. We can say, no, I never told anybody to do anything. I just mentioned that this could happen. You know, it's like mafia. Oh, nice country you got there. It'd be an awful shame if something happened to it. But I hope that the judge, I guess it's just a judge in Colorado, it is not before a jury, sides with the plaintiffs in this case, because if you did in any way participate in or encourage or aid and abet a rebellion against the Constitution, you have no business in a position where you are swearing allegiance to the Constitution. You just don't. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's Biden. I don't care if it's me. You know, if you're doing something like that, you know, if you are trying to destroy democracy and you're against the Constitution, you have no business in a position where you were supposed to be defending the Constitution. My opinion. What's yours? This is part of the podcast that we call Headliners on the Headlines. Joining us this week, two of our regular panelists, Ron Vigh is here and Chris Riggins is here. We're going to start with you, Chris. You're on a bus, right?
I just got off the bus. The whole reason why I'm late is because I thought that I would have at least an hour before we got to our destination when we were supposed to do this. But the bus pulls into Orlando right as I'm supposed to call you. So I had to get all my stuff off the bus. I'm in the hotel lobby actually in Orlando. So
now, didn't you see the NAACP advisory about going to Florida, advising black people not to go to Florida? I'm not making it up. That's an actual advisory. The NAACP put out. This is that the state is not hospitable to people of color.
But I am here with security, so I'm okay.
Hey, I sold my dad's house in Florida, and the biggest accomplishment there was 2 years of doing it. I never once stepped foot in Florida, and that was a great success right there.
Did you get your
That's a
price?
master.
What?
Did you get your price?
Oh no, I lost a lot on the house, but it's done with. And right after I sold the house, like 2 days later, there was one of those big hurricanes, and I'm like, oh no, like watch the hurricane come and knock this thing over right now, and I could have gotten all the insurance money or something instead after
You
2
could
years
have.
of hustle.
That would
But
have
I
been
never
more.
had to go to Florida, and I am so happy for that.
So where are you right now, Ron? You in Vegas?
Yes, I am here. I can't I can't wait to get back. I still have my place in San Francisco, and I miss the Bay Area so much for so many reasons. Yeah, I don't miss the Bay Area for so many reasons right now. So when my lease is up in February, I'm gonna move, and I'm torn. Is it back to the Bay Area full time or try something else?
Oh, that's not even a question. Just get back here. Get your behind back here.
Oh,
I said,
there's so much that I can't stand about it right now, Brian. I miss the people and I miss the comedy. I miss like-minded people like you all, because Vegas there's a lot of nice people here, but it's a little weird. And so we have a Republican governor now, and it gets a little Trumpy around this time of year, and it makes me just want to hide.
A little Trumpy around this time of year. I love that. Hey, Chris,
oh yeah.
So who are you in Orlando with? You with Chappelle?
Yeah, I'm with Chappelle tonight. Tomorrow night we're doing the Amway Center. We just drove in from Atlanta to in Atlanta last night. It's crazy. So yeah, Orlando tonight, and then I'm back to California.
Are you guys working here, or are you just coming home?
I'm coming home. I have to go. I have shows that I'm doing. I'm headlining the Punchline in November, so I'll be back home working on a whole new hour, trying to get that all set up.
I'm starting. That's my November goal. Is I'm starting to work on a new 45, which I haven't done in years. So I'm starting to put together a new 45. So you'll probably see me around working out and trying.
I'm here stuck in Vegas trying to work on a new 3.
A tight 3. Make sure that it's a tight a tight 3. All right. Well, let's start with this. Donald Trump's adult children are expected to testify this week and next week in his fraud trial in New York. And depending upon how this fraud trial goes, he may lose the entire Trump organization. Now, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump are co-defendants. Ivanka Trump was a co-defendant, but they determined that her misconduct happened outside the statute of limitations, so they can't include her. So she was separated, but she was subpoenaed in order to testify, and so testify against her dad. So she has gone to the appellate court and through several other procedures to try to get out of it or quash the subpoena. But the judge says she's got to testify, and it's next week. So my question is this: in most jurisdictions, a spouse cannot be compelled to testify against a spouse. You can't be forced to testify against your wife, can't be forced to testify against your husband. Do you think it's right that a kid is being forced to testify against her father?
As a parent, no, I don't think it's right. I think, you should allow them to have the volition to choose to do that if they want to. And if the parent's bad enough and the kid has enough moral compass, they'll do it just because they know it's wrong and they'll want to do it. But I don't think you should force. I think they should have the option. Even as bad as Trump is and as terrible as his family is, they still have those things that make them human, which is they're a family. And as much as I don't really care for all of my family, it doesn't mean that I want to put my family in prison or that I want to be put in a position that I have to turn on my family. So it's one of those things. It's like, there's the very real truth that he is a bad person, but that's her dad, and as a dad, I understand, it might be tough. That's her daddy. So I don't know. It also depends on their relationship. So I think it's messed up personally.
Ron?
You're not going to catch me using any common sense or empathy here. Yeah, she should testify and they should all be locked up.
You were talking to Chris about turning against your family. I'm thinking about two things. One is that the FBI and the DOJ is asking the public for help in identifying people they have not identified who were January 6th. So I posted this on Facebook and got like a couple of hundred comments. And my question is, if you found out that your kid or your brother or your neighbor or your friend had been part of January 6th, would you turn them into the FBI?
Yes.
Okay, now see, that's it. You're and you'd be forced probably to testify. You would probably be subpoenaed to testify against him.
Here's the thing, but there's the difference is there's a choice I have. I could totally say, I don't know, and act like I didn't see him. Or if I do go that step and turn him in, yeah, I'm gonna testify. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that's the whole line. Like if I'm gonna go that step to turn him in, yeah, I'm gonna testify. But for that's just like, yeah, you guys are traitors. You're treasonous traitors on our country. You should be in prison.
Ron, would you turn in somebody close to you if you found out they were part of January 6th? Would you call the FBI? Would you stay out of it?
I think I could say 99.9% yes. Since never been a father, if it was a child, I don't know what that relationship or bond would be like for me to say that I could or couldn't or would or wouldn't. But for the most part, I have this conscience that just doesn't let up lately. It just nags me when I feel like I may have done something wrong, and it just sticks with me for days until I do it right. And I feel like we really need to kind of be guided by that moral compass lately, because everything is just out of control. And it's a tough thing, but I would definitely a friend, probably a relative. I mean, I lost all respect for I think I've talked about this before. When my uncle, who served, died, my cousin wrote in his obituary at the end of it, "Go Trump," in a effing obituary. Wow. So I don't have patience for it. What?
I'm gobsmacked.
Crazy. And
that's
also
terrible.
In the military, they did the military. It's called like a military salute at the funeral, where they come with the flag and they do the whole. So they did all that, and they still wrote "Go Trump." And this was at the time, when he was definitely in the news for dodging drafts and stuff like that. This was about 2017, I think. 2018.
And calling soldiers who died or who were captured losers.
Yeah, exactly. So I, at this point, just have no patience for any of this. And if I know you were there and the agencies need my help, yeah, I'm turning you in.
All right, let's make it closer. Let's bring it closer. I don't know if you remember this story. The way the Unabomber got caught was his brother turned him in. I mean, could you turn in your brother?
If he's doing that, if he's blowing up people and hurting innocent people, yes, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to call him first and be like, "Hey, fam, I'm turning you in." I think that's the whole difference of it. It's like, for me, I would let them know it's me. I'm not hiding behind it. I turned you in. You killed innocent people. That's not right. It's very much the mentality I have. So yeah, that whether or not you kill people, it's a deal breaker.
Yeah, for me, again, I don't have a brother. I apparently don't have anything.
Are you an only child?
Well, I'm an only child.
That explains a lot.
I'm like an only child. My brothers are 20 and 16 years older than me.
So your nickname was Oops.
Yeah. We were so close to being done.
That's rough to grow up with siblings that much older than you, because you I mean, you do the math and you know that you were an unexpected surprise.
But the point is, you get spoiled. That's the thing. You just have to do. The hardest part is your brother saying, "Oh, they never let us watch TV after 8 p.m. Oh, they never let us have candy after dinner. Oh, they never." It was just like a series of things that you didn't get to do that I get to do. And I'm just like, well, should have been born later, motherfucker.
Well, they're tired. I mean, by the time they're at the last one, I know this myself, haven't raised straight. Mm-hmm. You're just tired, just whatever. You're a lot stricter on the first ones. Now, only children, what I've learned from my kids' peers is the thing that I found fascinating is that only children, when it's time to go to college, they get as far away as they possibly can. Whereas those with siblings will go to college locally. Those who are only children, because their entire 18 years of life, all of the attention from both parents has been focused on them like a laser. Everything they did. I mean, is that your experience?
For me, it's quite opposite, but it's not because I didn't want to get far away. I think my family, so I was the first person in all of my family to ever leave New Jersey. Okay. Nobody left. And I was grew up very sheltered, so much so that my mom wouldn't even drive more than a town away out of fear of getting lost. And that was a time where there was no Google Maps and things like that.
Yeah.
So when it came time, I like wanted to go and get out and explore the world, but at the same time, I was terrified because I took on all my mom's like fears.
Mhm.
And also, my parents got divorced, and so things were finally starting to come back together when I was in my late teens and college was into consideration. To where now my parents suddenly realized all the mistakes of my childhood and want to spend time with me. So they kind of like talked me into staying local and going to a commuter school so they could have more time, even though I wanted to get out. And so I did the college. And then 4 years later, I turned 21 and I went into New York City on my own because my parents would never take me to New York City. They were afraid of everything. And I accidentally tripped someone at a bar. And that person was from San Francisco. And we hit it off. And 2 months later, I moved to San Francisco.
Wow. So
Wow.
trip somebody at a bar.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things
Because of the
work out.
clumsy San Franciscans.
All right. Speaking of New York, I'm glad you mentioned New York. Story today, Jonathan Majors, the actor who most recently in the Ant-Man movie where he played Kang the Conqueror, and in Creed 3, okay, Michael Jordan's opponent in Creed 3, is fighting domestic violence charges in New York. And several months ago, when this first came to light, when he was first accused, I guess of beating his girlfriend, his manager dropped him, his agency dropped him, his publicist dropped him, and the question was what Marvel was going to do, because this Kang the Conqueror character is supposed to be the big villain who's like the Thanos of the current phase. If you follow these films, well, I'm reading today that now that I guess the proceedings have begun, that Marvel is considering shifting the focus and basically dropping that character and making the villain Dr. Doom instead. So here's the thing. He denies the charges. He denies the allegations. He's not been convicted of anything. Do you think that he's been treated fairly?
Of course not. Of course not. And also because what they leave, which there's another story that the woman that accused him of domestic violence is actually being charged for domestic violence now herself for that
really?
incident.
I didn't know that.
Well, here's the thing. This is why relationships are so crazy. This is one of those, like, we both we fight. We're a couple that fights, you know, and this is what happens when the couples are equally physical. The only problem is what happens is the man tends to get in trouble because we're perceived to be stronger, bigger. Right. Yeah, Jonathan's no small dude. He's buff as hell. And he's black and she is white.
He's going to jail.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, he's going to jail. He's done. He's toast.
I think what's happened is, and I don't want people to misconstrue this, the Me Too movement was a good movement. It was to get rid of things that were happening in the industry or in our world that need to be taken care of. Mm-hmm. But the problem with is when you go so long without doing something about a problem, that when you finally correct it, you tend to overcorrect and go beyond and above what needs to be done. And now these companies are seeing this and they're like, oh no, we got to get rid of it in case it's bad PR. And it's like, instead of saying, let's wait to see what happens, it's guilty till proven innocent for black men in this country.
Everybody. I mean, for everybody in terms of this, and you're right about the Me Too movement, and I support the Me Too movement. But the thing is that, and I say this, and I know I'm going to get flack for saying this, but every guy who makes a pass at you or who makes a lewd comment towards you is not Harvey Weinstein.
Exactly.
And that's basically, kind of where we got to a point where there was such an extreme. Now, and I come from a home with domestic violence. I come from a home with a father who beat my mother. When I was about about 11, 12 years old, I had to pull a butcher knife on him to get him off my mother and get him out of the house. So I'm not supporting batterers. I want to make that really, really clear. Yeah. But nobody's proven that he's a batterer.
He's accused of it.
Now he may be somebody. I think they should have waited until there was a verdict, until, once he's convicted of, then that's different. That's completely different. You're convicted of this, bye.
And how many millions of dollars are they going to spend to reshoot all these movies now with the new villain? Also with the actor strike still going on. So everything's pushed back. So they're going to lose so much money just to maybe hedge a bet, maybe to be on the right side. Because at the end of the day, it's like my mama told me. She said, if you see a couple fighting in the street, you leave them alone. you don't jump in the middle of that because you don't know what's going on in that fight, and you might end up being in more trouble than whatever's happening. Because I've seen men try to step in and intervene in couples' arguments and fights, and then guess what? Both those people like, get that out of my fight, and then you get beat up by two people who are, you know what I mean? So when it comes to this, they need to just say, you know what? Let this man have his due process. You know, clearly there's something going on, but you know, that has nothing to do with us, has nothing to do with King the Conqueror. This is this man's personal life. But unfortunately, we're living in this era where overcorrection is done, and Black men are automatically guilty to proven innocent, especially when it comes to rape, domestic violence, or anything concerning a white woman.
Well, but I think that's everybody. Every guy is guilty, and this climate is guilty until proven innocent if they're accused. Let me bring Ron in. Thoughts?
I mean, I definitely, well, first of all, I'm so sheltered. I don't know who this person is, and I don't know any of the movies, and I've never seen a Marvel movie. So taking all of that away, because I have no attachment to any of this, is that we do need, I think there does need to be a verdict, or something needs to come down before we just start like casting the blame and taking things away. But the other thing that was annoying about things like this is that agencies, a production company and so forth, they don't care about the cause or have a moral compass. They're so goddamn greedy. They just care about money. And they think it's going to lose them $1, and that's all they care about. You can't tell me that they actually care about improving the environment for, you know, other actors and actresses and society. They don't give a shit. Actors wouldn't be on strike for so long right now if they did, you know, care about any of that. So we're so quick. We're so also, there's so much context and other things that would probably go into it too. For instance, like in the comedy industry, stories finally come out about specific comedians and their behavior. But a lot of us have known these stories for 15, 20 years, and they were always, you know, quietly kept secrets. So I don't even know if that's a part of it and going on as well or not. Things are not so black and white. And I think a lot of these movements where we are now, we've made them so black and white. I mean, even take it into like arguments about like Israel and Palestine, which I refuse to get into with people, right? There's no thinking. There's this or this. And there's
no nuance.
No, there's no nuance at all. It's either you are on one side or you're wrong.
You are so right, Ron. It's all about money. Like, the Hollywood does not care about women. They don't care about abuse victims. They're not going to take the money they was going to pay him and put it into shelters and shit. They don't care. What they care about is their bottom line. And if they think that people aren't going to go see Marvel movies because the villain in the movie might actually be have made mistakes in his real life, that's just ignorance. You know what I mean? It's just so stupid, knee-jerk reaction to think that. But and they're underestimating the debauchery of their Marvel fans. That's what they're underestimating. Most comic book nerds are not going to be like, oh, they're going to be like, dang. So come on.
Oh man, comic book nerds. Well, I'm one of them. So there you go. Let's see. The House is voting today, Wednesday, when this is being recorded. So by the time this drops up tomorrow on Thursday, you'll kind of know how this shook out. But they're voting today on a resolution to expel George Santos, congressman from New York, another New York story, who's admitted to lying about his background, and he did that to get elected, and he is facing federal fraud charges. So the resolution is being pushed by his fellow Republican congressmen from New York who do not like him being a part of the delegation. So it takes a 2/3 majority of the House to get rid of him. But, you know, they've only got like a 5-seat majority or something, the Republicans. If they lose him, then it's down to 4. So a couple of things. Keep this in mind. He's lied about his name. His name. He lied about his name. We don't even know what his real name is. His name, his education, his work history, losing his mom in 9/11. He lied about being Jewish. He lied about having Jewish grandparents or something that got killed in the Holocaust. He lied about being a college volleyball star. Why would you lie about something like that? I mean, it's just,
nobody checks.
Nobody
cares about college volleyball. Nobody's going to be like, oh, nobody knows.
I don't remember him.
College volleyball.
Also, can I say, have you seen his outfits? I think he's lying about being gay as well.
Oh, have you guys seen the Saturday Night Live skits that they do about him?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. I forget the actor's name, but he is so good at George Santos. Like he's literally lying about having COVID. Then he pulls out a COVID test and talks about it's a phone. Like he's lying. He's like, I discovered you, Michael Che. Like he's lying about everything. It's so perfect because I just don't know. I feel like why aren't they giving him an award? Isn't he like the best liar of the liars?
Because they all lie. They all lie, but not to this extent.
Well, I'm sorry, in the corporate world and stuff, if you're found out that like you never led these companies and you got a job saying that you did, then you're going to get fired. Like you're just essentially lying on your resume. There's no reason for him to be there. And because he's, been embattled in like scandal for so long, what is he possibly doing and what good is he doing?
He's a vote. He's a vote that they need. He'll vote party line, and he's a vote that they need. That's really what it boils down to. And so it's been hard for them to get anything done because of the fact that they have not been able to get the votes that they need. And their majority is so incredibly thin that they can't afford. I don't think he's going to go. I don't think they're going to get to 2/3. I will be shocked. I know all the Democrats will vote to get rid of him, but are you going to get half of the Republicans to do it? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's a big difference between Republicans and like I want to say the right and the left is the sense that when the right sees something, they toe the line. They do not buck. That's how Trump got in office. They like, we don't like him, but he's our guy. Whereas, the left side wants to nitpick and pull everything apart and try to be so righteous that they get nothing done. So, yeah, I'm with you, Brian.
Al Franken.
Yeah, exactly.
Al Franken should not have gone for that. I mean,
exactly.
But they waste no time. The Democrats don't play. You get accused of something. And I thought about, as a comic, we've all done stuff or said stuff that taken out of context, if it comes back, could bite us in the ass. I know right. that I can't think of them all, but all the years of comedy I have, when you were comics and you goof around, you're doing things. And if it's recorded or a picture's taken and it's completely and totally out of context, it could be trouble. It could definitely be trouble. And that's what happened to Franken. I mean, I do not think he should have resigned over this, but he was forced to resign basically. And they're talking about he may run again, get a seat back. I hope he does. He does. Let's see. Here's something I want your take on. Matthew Perry died on Saturday night. Matthew Perry of Friends fame was found dead in his hot tub in Pacific Palisades on Saturday night. And just a couple of thoughts, and I want your thoughts. Story I saw today: linguists are saying that his character Chandler on Friends helped people learn English and American sarcasm after Friends was syndicated to over 100 different countries. And there is a lot of coverage about that. I mean, just a ton. When I'm looking at stuff today, there are several new stories and different angles every single day about this, and people are feeling like it's a personal loss. And so, first question is: do you think that there's too much coverage about this? And have you seen it all? I don't think I've seen it all, but I mean, have you seen how much there is? Do you think that there's too much about this? And number two, I wasn't a Friends fan. I mean, I've seen a handful of them or half a dozen of them, but the joke that I used to do back in the day was that I learned watching Friends and watching Seinfeld that there are no black people in New York.
At all.
At all. There are none. There are no black people in New York. I would say that all the Friends episodes are titled The One That, or The One, whatever. The one that got away, the one that whatever. And I would say, when are they going to do the one with the black people? When are they going to do that one?
Well, they did do one. They had Aisha Tyler. Yeah, she was Joey and Ross were fighting over her, which was the only way we're going to get black people on that show. Because it was funny when recently the creators of Friends were being called out on the lack of diversity. David Schwimmer really literally said, "I fought for Ross to have more women of color love interest." And I'm like, so it's only diversity as long as you can get laid, Ross. Got it.
Are you a Friends fan, Ron?
No.
Me, no. And you know what? So let's see. When Friends ran, that was probably like the late 90s, right?
I think 94 to 2004, I think it was.
Okay, so that was like right at the time where I was just so into TV. I would have been 15 in 94, okay, to like my mid-20s.
Yeah.
And I know like so much from that time period, but I never got into Friends. But it's interesting what you said about the other countries and people learning English. I've heard a lot of people tell me that they've learned English from watching American sitcoms and watching, different programming from America. And I always thought that was like very interesting. I do think it's an iconic series. I never got it. And the one thing that I hate when someone dies like this is, I don't know. We don't really know how or why he died, but there's been a lot of speculation on his mental health leading up to that. And I think if we're going to talk about that, we should really continue to talk about that, because mental health is a huge problem.
Well, he was an addict. He was an addict, and actually, he was. I listened to his autobiography about 3 months ago, an audiobook with him reading it. And I really felt like I knew him afterwards. But he talked about, he had something like 18 stomach surgeries.
Oh,
was
wow.
in a coma and all this because of all the drugs he took. He says the whole 10 years of Friends, he goes, I can look at any season and go, that season I was on Coke. Oh, that was a season I was on Vicodin.
Wow.
Oh, that was a season that I was drunk the whole time. And so that's why he said he didn't watch the reruns because of that.
I think, I don't want people to remember him then for things like that. But on the same hand, I think that's an important discussion to have, because I don't think a lot of us would really be aware. We're never aware of when a lot of people are struggling, mentally and so forth. So I would love maybe to perhaps bring up more discussion on that and ways that we can look to help other people.
Well, the thing he said he wanted to be remembered for is that what he's been doing since he's been sober, had been sober for a year, had been clean and sober for a year at the time of his death. So he said, we'll see what the toxicology report says after the autopsy and whether or not that was a factor. But he's been actually helping a lot of other people get straight, helping addicts get straight, and that's what he wanted to be remembered for. He said recently, because he just did a book tour, not too long ago, promoting this book. It's #1. It's back to #1 today. It came out several months ago, and it's #1 on the bestseller list as of today. But you're right. You never do know when people are struggling, and we've all known comics that were either I always said about mental health and about depression, for instance. I've been very open about my battles with depression. Is that if you put 100 comics in a room and you said anybody who's had depression or mental illness issues, raise your hand, you'd have 99 hands go up and one liar.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think there's something about struggling like that or having that those challenges in your life that make you a better comic, believe it or not. Look at Pryor, for God's sake. The greatest who ever lived, in my opinion. Look at the stuff that Pryor went through, with drug addiction and everything else.
Talking about it.
You think it makes you a better comic?
I'll be real. Getting over it makes you a better comic, I believe.
Exactly.
The addiction is a symptom of a larger problem that's going on in your life, whether it's emotional, mental, whatnot. But I think the reason why comics are so good is because we're able to take all those feelings and emotions and make them happy, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like we can take our pain and make it something that we can use as a tool. And I don't know if this has happened to either one of you, but when you do a personal joke about something and someone comes up to you after the show and says, I went through the same thing and I appreciate you talking about it, that's where you start feeling that comedic connection through what you went through to how you share it to the world. Because, hearing him talk about being on drugs during certain seasons, but then you see his performance. To the average person, none of us would have known he was on drugs. We thought maybe he just lost weight that season. Maybe he just gained a little weight that season. We didn't know he was on drugs because he was so good at channeling that, at taking those emotions and drugs and whatever he was going through outside of that studio, being able to go into that studio, turn those cameras on, and Chandler Bing comes across and helps people learn English and is helping other people laugh and get through their day.
All right, let me ask you this question, both of you. Have you ever done a set while you were drunk or high?
Yeah. We call that the first 4 years of my comedy.
Yeah, I think back in the day, I may have, when I was a young comic who knew nothing, who thought he was great and amazing at everything. I may have, but
you may have. If you did it. What's this may have crap?
Well, if you did or not. No, because I've never done drugs in my life, by the way, except painkillers. But I've never done actual what we consider drugs. And in terms of drinking, I really don't know, because I think like back when I was in my early 20s, for me, I came to San Francisco and suddenly it was like, oh, I can be who I want to, who I am, right? And so I got into the party scene a little bit, and I was much more of a hobbyist comic. So I'm sure that I drank, but I don't think I was wasted. Um, and I cringe now when I see comics go up there and talk about, oh, I'm so drunk, oh, I'm so high. It actually really, really bothers me. And in a lot of ways, I think that's why comedy is not respected as an art form sometimes. But going back to like our tragedy, like I sometimes get upset because I feel like I make people laugh, which is very important, right? It's very cathartic, just making people laugh. But I feel like I turn into the gay joke monkey sometimes, right? So I've been trying to move into this area where I have all of this personal stuff that I want to talk about, because I can relate to people. And it might not be the same thing, but we've all lost loved ones, right? And I want to talk about like the healing process there. That's been very important, to me. I want to talk more about like the mental health, and I'm like, I just like, I'm in my mid-40s and I'm like getting on more and more and more pills, and I think that's ridiculous, but it's also helping me live. And I want to talk about like all of these things, and I just don't know how to seem to do it without people clamming up. But that's where I'm trying to go, because I do want to use the comedy for good these days. And if that is just telling my silly little gay innuendo jokes and that makes people laugh, well, that is good. But I just want a little more, because I've certainly, with everything that's going on in the world, it sort of opened up my eyes. And I'm be like, we're all human and we're all just trying to survive. So like, how can I use the little superpower that I have to make it better?
That's great, because the comedy is the spoonful of sugar.
Yes.
It really is, because you could talk about anything if you can make it funny. Talk
You
to me
can't.
about what you said about being the gay joke monkey, because the way I look at it is that there's universality. I mean, gay relationships, straight relationships, what's the difference? I mean, it's the same crap. As far as I know,
Right.
relationship's a relationship. You're still dealing with the same crap. How am I going to get through this another day?
Right.
Some days.
As a gay comic, or a comic who is gay, I never really call myself a gay comic. I said a comic who happens to be gay. I feel like we get the same scrutiny that female comics get, where all of a sudden we shouldn't talk about that and you shouldn't do that, and people don't want to hear that, right? But it's the same thing that everybody else, going through. It just happens to be gay. And so I have been trying to do what you were just saying, is to put it in a little more abstract, terms, so we're not actually thinking about me being gay, and they're just thinking about, oh, we have this in our relationship and this dynamic as well, because we go through the same arguments, the same problems, the same discoveries, and so yeah. But I've been more conscious than ever. I've always been conscious about the wording as a comic, right, and how you do setups and punchlines, most information in the most concise way. But now I'm so aware of the actual word, not because I don't. Sometimes comedy is going to be a little offensive if you do it right, but just because I don't want anybody to leave there feeling like, you read these Yelp reviews where people are like, oh, well, this comic clearly hated this person and that person. And actually, I had someone do that to me in Philadelphia, and it really bothered me about a joke that I have. And they just, in my opinion, they just misconstrued the joke, and they thought it was anti.
What's the joke?
Do you want me to go into the whole joke?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the joke?
Okay, I don't do this joke anymore because it was a joke meant for the time, right? But I'll say, we didn't know the pandemic was getting, so bad, but I realized that things were getting really bad in 2020 when certain things happened. Las Vegas shut down, Broadway shut down. I knew it was bad. The NBA was mid-season, and they said, hey, we're going to try to have basketball games, but without any fans in the stands. And everyone lost their minds. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Didn't they try that already? They just called it the WNBA. And so
that's funny.
Ouch.
But here's the thing.
They took it as anti-woman.
And I have 5 saves for that joke that I do in rapid fire, to where I try to prove that it's a pro-women sports and a pro-woman joke. It's not an anti-woman joke, right? So I'll say things like, oh, you're all groaning. Well, okay, go to your phone and go to Ticketmaster right now and pull up a copy of the ticket stubs to the last WNBA game you went to. It didn't happen. There'd be more than 12 teams in the WNBA if any of you supported it. There are more people in this comedy club than been in the stands of the WNBA. Brittany Griner wouldn't have been in a Russian prison for 9 months if any of you gave a shit about women players, right? And I go on and on and on and on about it. And then I eventually get them when I say, okay, earlier this year was the WNBA championships. Who won? You know, I've been doing that joke for 3 years and only once someone got it right.
Wow. Now, I had a
Las Vegas
similar joke.
Aces.
The one that got me in trouble, that's a similar joke that people misconstrued. When the Sacagawea dollar came out, okay, first woman on a dollar. And the joke I did was they're going to put a woman on a silver dollar. Does that mean it's only worth 73 cents? And at the time they said for every dollar a man made, a woman made 73 cents, and people would boo that joke, as me, putting down women. And that wasn't what that was about. I was actually making a joke to, shine the light on an injustice that women have to deal with.
Wow.
Right. And maybe this goes back to what we talked about earlier with things like the Me Too movement, and that we're so sensitive to things right now that we're not actually thinking about it. We're hearing buzzwords and we're getting all upset. And suddenly we have to go write Yelp reviews and Facebook reviews and say that this comedian was this and that. And I will discuss my jokes to a degree with somebody if they feel like they have a problem, and I will listen. Because I have one joke that does really well that always bothers me, because, and I haven't figured out how to change it yet, but the joke always kills, where in the punchline, it specifically mentions a woman, and I call her a bitch, but it's not like, I refer to her as a cranky bitch, but it has nothing to do with her being a woman when I do that. It has something to do with this whole scenario of being in the office environment. And so it always bothers me when I say that, because I want to make sure people are not laughing for the wrong reasons at that joke.
Right.
But the joke also kills every time.
It's hard to throw something out that kills. It's hard to throw something out that kills because it's not politically correct or people are misconstrued. And what joke have you done, Chris, that people just haven't gotten, or that they're grown on or boo for the wrong reason because they don't get it? Have you got one? We've all got one.
I'm trying to think of. Well, there's one that I did that Dave Chappelle actually makes fun of me for at every show.
What's the joke?
Okay, I was trying to make the reference that nobody, men or women, can eat a popsicle without looking like they're doing oral activities. Like you just can't eat a missile pop and look like you're just eating a missile pop. Okay. And the joke on its head on that works fine when you talk about, adults, but I brought my kids into it.
Ooh.
And that just threw the whole joke to the left, and it was not good.
No. What does Chappelle say when he's busting your chops about it?
He was like, that was the worst joke I've ever heard in my life. And don't ever do that joke again. And I've never done that joke again. Ever.
All right, I'm gonna go into the. I'm gonna go. I was gonna say into the toilet for a minute, but I just had to talk to you guys about this. I really debated whether or not I was gonna bring this up, but I saw it and I go, we got to throw this in. In the Slate has this. Slate the website has this advice column, and it's usually stuff about sex is the advice column. So there was an email today. From a woman I'll read it to you. I'm a heterosexual woman in my late 20s. I discovered after some experimentation that while guys with bigger penises are nice to look at, they can be annoying and awkward to take. And sex is really much better with guys who are below average in the size department. However, I struggle to communicate this with prospective partners. Guys seem to have some sort of instinctive need to hear that they're bigger than average and get some combination of defensive and angry if you even suggest that they're not. And they seem to be completely uncomprehending of a woman who prefers a smaller partner. It's cost me a few encounters that could have otherwise gone well. How do I communicate with men that I'm looking for somebody with a small penis without putting their backs up?
Wow.
Yeah.
Change where you go
them.
look for dudes.
I was
go to places where tiny peen guys hang out.
I mean, there are
MMA matches. There's tons of tiny peens there. Go knock yourself out, lady.
I will say this. I don't know how truthful it is, and if this happens on straight dating apps. Back when I was single, there was a dating app, and you do filters, right? Who you want to see profiles to,
Yeah.
male, age, whatever. And one had penis size, and so I put small penis in there just to see what popped up. 3 guys in all of the world popped up under the small penis category. So
3 truthful men.
3 triple men. So she needs to find that website and go find those men. That's what she needs to do.
Well, the advice
It's a
they gave
behavior
her,
thing.
well, the advice they gave her was, they said, I'd be upfront. If you're using dating apps, put something like, quote, I genuinely prefer penises in the 5-inch range in your bio. And then he warns her that she's going to have trouble with the size of her dating pool. If she does that, her dating pool is going to be smaller. So,
oh God, I think there's ways to notice it. If they're wearing Ed Hardy, they're probably got a small P. The bigger their truck is, probably a small P.
The faster they
drive. Are they aggressively hitting on you? Small P. The problem is, all the guys that will admit to the small P are already taken because they're confident. They're confident in their dudes. I mean, this is a problem I don't understand, but I assume.
Yeah, you don't understand. Size of my hands.
I've been described as the perfect size, and I like that. I don't need to be bigger or small.
Let's leave
more
your
than a
doctor out
couple
of
of
it.
times.
Let's leave your doctor out of it.
I'm American. I don't have no doctor. You talking about a doctor? I've been to the doctor in 10 years.
See, that's why married men live longer than single men do, is because spouses wives especially make you go to the doctor. They make you go to the doctor.
Because they want to make sure you don't weigh too much when you die, so they ain't got to carry that heavy casket. So,
okay, Ron, thoughts? Are there any other thoughts on this? You look like you got something to say.
Well, generally, when I hear penises, this is my wheelhouse.
Right.
Here's the thing, though, that I find interesting is, of course, I just have the gay perspective on this and dating through time. And one thing that the gays do is they don't so much qualify the penis size as much as they qualify the role, top or bottom. And that always bothered me, because I felt like that I truly can be adjustable for real love and real, chemistry.
Yeah.
So I never put myself into a box. So I also would never put myself into checking off the small, medium, large penis box. I would just go on dates and meet people and just see where it went, because I can adjust. If I truly met a good, genuine person who would also make me a good, genuine person, I can figure out what's going on sexually down there, what we're going to do. So I never really, I mean, it's good that she knows what she wants. And I think she should be up close, up front and honest about it.
Up close, actually, she needs to be, apparently, too.
Yeah. All these guys have so much ego about it, and they just weed them out. And I know it's got to be a pain in the ass to do that and deal with that, but I mean, I don't know, or just figure it out. You'll find the right guy, and it will just work out sexually for you.
No guy's copping to that. No guy's copping. No guy.
If he's into cryptocurrency, he probably has a small penis.
Go to an open mic, lady. You can figure out which comics have a small penis.
Yeah. Data. They're the ones that's gonna really make you cringe.
There is a video. There's a video that's gone viral of a woman refusing to get out of the car on a first date when she realizes that the guy is taking her to the Cheesecake Factory. So she's walking out the car.
I have something to say about this right away.
Go ahead.
I do too.
Go ahead.
First of all, I used to cringe at suggesting places on dates because I know that I was a picky person or whatever. However, I just went to the Cheesecake Factory for the first time last week. And after that experience, I would definitely refuse. I refuse to get 5,000 feet in a Cheesecake Factory. It is horrible. That's not a first. I mean, basically, right there, forget about small penis size. Right there, you're just not going to be a relationship. If she's not getting out of the car from the Cheesecake Factory, then just put her in an Uber and go home. It's done with.
Right.
But I also don't bring people to the Cheesecake Factory.
I mean, first of all, let me just disclaimer. It has been proven that the video was a fake. It was a viral video they were trying to make.
Oh, what's a fake?
Yeah, the couple that was the two people that was in the video, they've come out saying it was a skit. It was them doing a skit about supposed to be, and there's an article about it. It's a skit and it's supposedly about them, it's this trend of shaming Black women for wanting better, which is a big trend, which is happening a lot in America right now. But as far as like, if this was a real situation, like you got to communicate with people. Like, don't take somebody on a first date where you want to go. Ask them, what kind of food do you like? Are you into this? Take them on somewhere where you could sit and actually talk to them. Because like the Cheesecake Factory is not a place for a first date. It's a place when your nephew graduates from his work release program or something, and you're like, oh, let's go to the Cheesecake Factory, and you get a big plate of spaghetti for no reason. You know what I mean? No,
the
it's
place
a
to go
terrible
on a
place.
first date is Applebee's. If you instead of the Cheesecake Factory, step it up a notch and go to Applebee's. They actually made a list after this video. They made a list of places never to take a first date. Cheesecake Factory's on it. Out for coffee. And that surprises me because that was always my first date was, let's go and have coffee. That way you can talk,
That makes sense.
Well,
I do coffee.
We got to remember the list is a joke list. The list is partially facetious. So to get the coffee thing, I think that was a joke, but yeah, it depends on the person. I've asked people to have coffee and they're like, I don't drink coffee. Okay.
Is a comedy club on that list?
No, it's not. But what is on the list
should
is sporting events, coffee, drinks. I don't understand why drinks, it would be on this list. Movies, I can understand movies and concerts being on the list because you can't talk. What's the point?
Drinks is also, we live in a different era now, and drinks was the whole idea of taking a woman for drinks back in the day was solely to get her drunk enough to get her inhibitions down so you can have sex with her. So the drinks thing kind of just, for me, I never really took women out for drinks because it does imply, hey, I'm trying to get you drunk so I can do stuff to you instead of getting to know you. Whereas, yeah, coffee is more of a get to know type thing. We're sober. We're actually being more alert. We're actually, so I don't get the coffee one, but yeah, drinks, I can totally understand why a woman wouldn't want to go out with drinks with a dude she just met. There's so many stories of women getting their drinks drugged, going out with a dude, and they go to the bathroom and they turn their head 2 seconds and he didn't drug them. So it's a safety thing, really.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I can buy that. Other also on the list, family functions. Who on a first date invites somebody to come on a family? Hey, we're having a family reunion. Why don't you come? Thanksgiving? Why don't you come?
Somebody with codependency issues takes you to a family function, like
a family function,
where they try to prove something. I remember my gay cousin brought a girl to the family function because he was trying to act like he wasn't gay. And he was like, fam, it's okay. You're gay, fam. You don't have to bring this chick to the family function on your first date to prove to us anything. We know, cousin.
It would be fun to bring a first date to like a funeral or a wake or something like that.
Show my sensitive side. This is my last date.
There's a story I read, speaking of a funeral story I read today. Robert De Niro is being sued by his former personal assistant. And among the allegations and things he was questioned about on the stand was she alleged that when she's at her grandmother's funeral, he called her twice. He knows she's at the funeral, and De Niro called her twice and asked her to do stuff, get a bus ticket for his nephew and stuff like that at the funeral. Mm-hmm. And when they asked De Niro, he goes, yeah, and he admits that he did it.
Robert De Niro's getting a bus ticket for his nephew? You putting your nephew on the bus, Robert? That is terrible, Robert De Niro.
Do better.
You do way better.
Oh, let me ask you about this. Story in the Wall Street Journal. There's a new section that some airlines have added to air travel between economy and business class and first class, and they're calling it in the industry. They're calling it upper middle class. And what it is, you pay more than you pay for a Coach ticket. Upper middle class, it says for people who have more disposable income but don't want to spend the thousands it takes to fly first class or business class. And you get a bigger seat, you get free drinks, the meals are better, but it's not as much as business class. And I'm wondering, I have traveled first class. I've never paid for it. I've traveled first class maybe a dozen times in my life, and it's always been either miles or you can pay $100 to upgrade to first, or the club or the venues flying me. I've never paid for it. Have you guys ever paid for to fly first or business?
Yep.
Wow. Well, look at you.
I'm flying first class from Orlando to LA on Friday.
Are you paying out of pocket? You paying yourself?
I'm paying. Well, I'm getting reimbursed, but I'm paying for it out of my pocket. Yes, it is coming out of my pocket.
You're getting reimbursed. It's not coming out of your pocket and paying you back. What's it cost to fly first back to LA? From Orlando to LA.
Right. I got my flight was $689
for first.
Yep, one way.
That's not bad.
Wait, at all. So I fly first maybe 50% of the time now, but it's all because of my status, right? And as one of the biggest tips that I give newer comedians that are just getting out on the road is stick with one or two airlines, right? Status means everything, and you want the luggage for your merch and stuff like that, right? But these airline points really help comedians. And so, but I do refuse to pay for it the majority of the time because in America, it's never really worth, unless you have that extra money, it's never really worth the price. I mean, when we just went to Hawaii, I took my mom there and she wanted to treat herself to first class. And, you know, you have to look at the plane type. Every experience from point A to point B is not the same too, right? So there's a lot of work, and I feel like sometimes you're just being taken advantage of. And I don't like people who are just, you know, have hard-earned money. Being taken advantage of. It never seems worth it. But man, you know what? When you're sitting up there in first class, it doesn't even matter if you're just getting like a snack and a drink. Oh, it's just nice, like to not be bothered by all of that. And
I took the bed first class to New York at the beginning of October. Because on the red eye they offer you that bed.
Yeah.
That.
Oh my God,
Ryan, let me tell you. Once you fly laying down, it changes the whole perspective of your world. You don't even want to look at the back of the plane. Like I either do Comfort Plus on Delta or I do first class. If Comfort Plus is not available, I'll go ahead and do the first class just because it's just a peace of mind. It's the comfort. It's the leg room. It's the free checking my bags. It's the, you know, I get on the plane first, the Delta Sky Club. It's all those little bitty perks. It's the fact that I'm drinking coffee before the plane takes off while the poor people are still sitting down. It's just
well, you know, I recently experienced probably what this is similar to what Brian is saying. It was called premium economy, I believe, on Qantas when I went to New Zealand, and that was way better than the first class on United that I took on the way back. And can I tell you, by the way, I'm just gonna complain about this, even though this is first world problems complaining about first class. I had one of those lay down seats, Chris, on my United flight from Auckland to San Francisco. But guess what United didn't have? They didn't have any personal air vents in the plane. They took them all out on this plane. So, so I sent a complaint letter about it along with a picture. And I'm like, well, it's great that you give me the lay down bed and so forth, but I couldn't get comfortable because it was 1,000,000 degrees and there was no vents. And the other thing that pissed me off about that flight is they came down and they go, what's your first, second, and third option for food in case we run out? And I'm like, okay, I got upgraded with points, so that's fine. But if I paid $5,000 and you're asking me for my third option, that's just pathetic.
That's why, but you know, Rod, you said something. Flying first class in the United States is not the same as flying any class overseas. Like Lufthansa, they have amazing planes. Even there, like I had to fly coach from Berlin to Amsterdam, Lufthansa. And even the coach section, the seat was wider. It was more comfortable. I was getting the same basic service as they got in the first class. And then on the next flight going from Amsterdam to LA, we were in the business plus class. And I mean, it was like no difference between first class. And then you look in the back and everybody's getting meals on plates. Everybody's getting real food. Everybody's getting treated like a star on outside of this country airlines.
Now,
and by the way, United is the devil.
Well, I was just going to tell you my story. The first time I flew first class was I was working in Atlantic City, so it was a flight from Oakland to Philly, and it was one of the one of Trump's casinos, as a matter of fact. I was working with like Aretha Franklin, And what I would do is I would fly into Philly, and they would limo me from Philly to Atlantic City. So I had miles, and my wife at the time had never gone to the East Coast with me anytime I went. So it was our anniversary, so I had enough miles to upgrade us to first, and we were going for our anniversary. And I got asked by the flight attendant to see my ticket 5 times, 5 times, because she apparently did not think that I belonged there. And so 5 times, I'm not exaggerating, she asked me to see my ticket.
Like in the middle of the air. In the middle of the air, she's like, "Hey."
That was one of the times. Yeah, we take it. What it was like 3 times before we took off. I'm sorry, I need to see that again. That's what she keeps saying. And then once or twice when we were in the air. Yeah, like what's she gonna do? Kick me to the back if I'm not supposed to be there?
Wow.
Yeah, and that was
This
on
one.
United.
I've had that happen once. Yeah, United's the devil. I had that happen once, and I literally made that woman run for everything I need. I was like, "Oh, you know what? I need some more water. Oh, you know it's too hot. Oh, you know what? Can you do this?" I was like, "Nah, you're not gonna treat me. I'm gonna treat you like the servant." I was gonna be cool, but now I want a towel. I want. Oh, this towel's not hot enough. Oh, no, I don't want the chicken. I want the beef now. I was on her helmet.
Well, and sometimes now they have, as a former flight attendant, you used to have everything on, when I did it, on like a paper like thing like this long, and you'd have to search for the names, and nothing was organized. And so I could see maybe then, but now they have the tablets that are supposed to be much more organized. So it's computerized. So unless you switch seats, they should have no problem proving. So maybe knowing the disorganization of the airlines, asking once is valid. But when you prove it once, that's enough. Now you're just asking for other reasons.
Yeah. And she kept asking
Right.
for ID, to make sure that I was the person who the ticket was under the name of. And it was embarrassing, to be quite honest.
She was trying to get you kicked off that flight. She was literally trying to make you react and get kicked off that flight. That's what she was. She wanted you to be like, whoa, and then she was gonna be like, "Oh, I was an angry black guy, gotta go."
Yeah. Well, in first class, the other passengers in first were all elderly white people. It was elderly white people and me and my wife. And so, if you're looking at that demographic, no, we didn't belong. No, we did belong, but it was embarrassing. And to be honest with you, I haven't flown, and I had, frequent flyer miles. That's how I was able to get the upgrade. But I have not flown United since. And this is years ago. I have not flown United since.
United is the goddamn devil.
Now, what's your experience? Why do you say they're the devil?
Lost luggage. That was on United when that happened to me.
Oh, that's
like I've had a situation like Ron had where they just didn't have the basic things that you need on a plane to operate. You know what I mean? Like, dang, yeah, there's no air. Like it's not a good airline. They're not about the customers. Whereas Delta gives me so much plug, so much hookup. They gave me an upgrade a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't even have to use my points. They was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, we just got a seat here. You want to take the seat? Yeah, thanks." Now I'm a silver club member. No, go ahead.
No, sorry. Lately, I've taken to complaining about almost every flight because they are the devil, but they're all valid complaints, and they have been getting better about sending like $100 certificates and stuff like that. I call them my Karen credits, but but I did have something that just happened last week that bothers me, and I posted this on my social media and then took it down because people sort of started attacking me. But the flight attendant fell asleep in her jump seat on an active runway. She nodded off. I watched her nod off, and she was sleeping. It was a red-eye flight. We didn't take off yet, and it was about an hour wait. And she fell asleep manning the door in her jump seat. And it was one of those ones where they're facing you. So she was right in front of me. So I sent that to United, and they sent me the most combative response, telling me that it's illegal what you did, taking a picture. I'm like, it's actually not illegal. It's maybe against your policy, but it is not illegal. And I looked into all of this, and when it comes to a matter of safety, it's valid. And I thought they would apologize, and I purposely left the lady's name out of it, and I didn't want her to get in trouble. But to me, that is a valid safety issue. And they wrote, "You proved nothing with this picture. She has her arm crossed and her head's down. That doesn't mean that she's sleeping." I'm like, oh, really? Well, what does that mean? She's dead then, right? Because it's like, that is not, I was a flight attendant. That is not this. with your eyes closed is not a brace position. I know this. She fell asleep, and it's fine. We're human, but is the larger picture here with the airlines right now is that people tell me it's not like when you've flown. They are maxing you out on hours. They're maxing you out on days. They don't want to pay people. There's constant struggles and arguments with the unions. It is a terrible industry to be in right now, and they're trying to take advantage of the worker as much as possible. So I'm not blaming her, but it is a safety issue. If we were bumped by another plane on that runway, she's going to wake up and be startled. She's going to be confused. She's not going to know what's happened. She's not going to be able to open the door. It is a safety issue. And United was so combative in their response. I actually wrote the aviation editor for Politico into my stuff because I was like, this is ridiculous. I also sent a thing to the FAA and the DOT on it as well. And I'm looking in like how to like get directly to Pete Buttigieg's office.
Did you
post a response?
Did you post a picture on social media?
I did, and people started attacking me, so I took it down.
So what? Well, why were they attacking you? I don't understand why you'd be attacked for that.
A few flight attendant friends, and people are like, "Well, you don't know the story," and I'm like, "You're right, I don't know the story." But the bottom line is, they're trying to defend her. I'm like, "Cool. What if the pilot was sleeping? You're gonna defend that too?" Like, this makes no sense. I'm not mad at her personally, but I'm saying, like, step up your game, United. Every time there's some issue and you're not owning up to it. And it wasn't even, I was like, they should say, thank you, we'll look into it. Here's this, that. So sorry. They were so combative about it, defending it. That is what pissed me off.
Yeah, I mean, it is a safety issue. I mean, I think it's legitimate. I think it's absolutely legitimate. But again, we don't know the story, but it's still legitimate. You shouldn't be sleeping.
But
if you're not tired,
as someone that's worked as an employee, I do appreciate United for standing up for their employee. I've seen so many employees get fired by this stuff, but it sucks that she fell asleep. And I feel you, Ron. I think what you were doing was saying, I don't want her to get in trouble. I just want you guys to be aware that you need to stop working your employees so much so this doesn't happen. Because you're right, it is a safety issue. If you're on duty as a flight attendant, you have to be aware of what's because somebody could have started having a heart attack before they take off. And she has to be able to jump up and take care of that. So I totally feel you. But on the other hand, I do appreciate that a corporate entity stood up for their employee, even if they were wrong. I mean,
now you worked at IKEA, and I love your IKEA stories. Do you think IKEA?
Oh yeah. No, not those.
Actually, are those Swedish meatballs a good place to take a first date? To go to IKEA and have Swedish meatballs? It's dinner.
If you want it to be your last date, you really don't want this person to like you.
Furniture on a first date, that could be fun, and that can show you who gets frustrated very easily.
It's a test. It's all a test. We are out of time, guys. Ron, where are you playing? Where can folks come see you?
Playing? I am somewhere coming up. Come to Vegas, everyone. I'm at Brad Garrett's at the MGM Grand, November 8th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And then if you're listening up in Idaho, I'm going to be in Boise headlining Lounge at the End of the Universe, November 17th and 18th. And
you go to Boise?
I do. And get this.
I get scared going to Idaho. I used to go to Idaho.
Well, I'm bringing as my feature, and she's the headliner. She's not a feature, but she's coming anyway. Y'all know Carla Clay. I'm bringing Carla Clay as my feature.
Yes.
Because she's retired, and I want her to have opportunities, and I love her, and she's funny. So I think Idaho is going to get a black woman and a gay guy, and they're going to enjoy it.
No, their heads are going to explode is what's going to happen. Their heads are going to explode. You're going to have brains all over the comedy club.
I'm happy the club is inviting us and letting us be us. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, have a good show. Have good shows there, I hope. Be safe.
Thank you.
be safe. Chris, now where are you at?
I will be performing at the Amway Arena this Thursday, November 2nd, I believe. Is that 2nd? Yeah, November 2nd.
That's when this is dropping. So that's today.
Today, if you guys hear this afternoon, I'll be at Amway in Orlando tonight. So come through. But more importantly, I don't think so. Not yet. It will sell out. So please get tickets now.
With Dave Chappelle.
But more importantly, with Dave Chappelle. More importantly, though, I love Dave Chappelle, but Chris Riggins will be headlining the San Francisco Punchline on Wednesday, November 29th. I need everybody to come out, sell this out. Let's have a good time.
That's awesome.
It's going to be a great show. So That's the show I really want to promote.
That's when I felt like I'd made it as a comic in San Francisco the first time I headlined the Punchline. Yeah.
Yes, I'm
excited.
excited.
The premier club. It's still the premier comedy club. Well,
Super
thanks, guys.
excited.
I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to have you. Come back and see us again soon.
Thank
Ron
you.
Vigh, Chris Riggins. All right, that's going to do it for this edition. We'll check out next week. If you like what it is that you saw or you heard here today and you want to support us, if you are listening, please go to whatever platform you're on and give us a 5-star review. It helps people to find the show. If you are watching us over YouTube, we're trying to get 1,000 subscribers, because once we've got 1,000, we can do this live. And that way we can incorporate your text and your emails and your comments into our discussion. So subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. And we're trying to get to 1,000. That's going to do it for us. Until next time, be kind to your neighbor. He knows where you live.